one of many issues that students in the physical schools face. So how do you think that this issue could be addressed by the DPSCD board? The final weeks of classes, some Detroit schools had to end their days early due to the hot weather and having no air conditioning.
One of the things that um the DPS board has done and are doing, they have went to some of the schools and put air conditioners back in some of the schools, and they have invested a large sum of money into the infrastructure of schools. So they are shifting schools around to make sure that we are addressing uh those problems, but I think that it's something that should have been done sooner to make sure that when we came back to this school year, that those issues were addressed. But those problems are being addressed, and there hasn't been a lot of money that has been invested into the Detroit Public School Board, so we're able to look at the schools that are not worth investing, because maybe the money that we invest in those schools is too much, and that it's better to just move them to another school. But I think that we should be into a place to where we're able to accommodate, to make sure that our children are not cold in the wintertime, making sure that our children are not hot in the summertime. And if we are not able to uh put those different things in place to make sure that our schools by next school year, this school year is done, is that we should put portable air conditioners in those individual classrooms, do whatever we need to make sure that the children and the students and the staff are cool, but that we continue to make sure that we invest the right money in the right type of buildings to be able to accommodate everybody. Because you shouldn't feel that, okay, well, I can go to a school like Cass Tech that's newly done, as air conditioners, heating in there, but you should be able to go to all schools and be able to feel and comfortable wherever you're at, because that shapes the culture, that shapes the environment, and that shapes being able to make sure that you're actually comfortable in learning.
Well, to my understanding, and I've been to and I attend board meetings, new schools are being built. And I think that's a good thing. But what about those who are left? Okay, you can't leave them behind. And so you're putting all this money into new schools. That's good. But what about the schools over here? Then that money needs to be invested into rewiring, putting air in, working with the heating, because you can't leave the students and the school behind that does not have this modern day facility, all of these amenities. We've got to concentrate on all, and it's got to be equal across the board.
So we recently, back in April, we approved the $700 million facilities master plan. So it's 700 million, and it was part of the 1.2 billion from the COVID dollars. And so the board voted in favor 7-0 to approve this facilities plan. One of the things that the plan addresses, in addition to building some new buildings, is it addresses that whole HVAC piece. You guys know students went back this past Monday. And so everybody wasn't happy about the fact, why are we going back before Labor Day? Oh my gosh. But to your point, our district didn't get out to the end of June because of days that we were making up and things of that nature. So going back earlier allows us, yes, to end earlier. We're looking to end that second week, I think June 9th, because the further we go into the summer, the hotter the buildings are. This $700 million facilities master plan would allow almost all of our buildings to be air conditioned. So they will have HVAC opportunities to have air conditioned. And I think that's important because we live in a space where sometimes our summer may come in May, right? And we're still in school. And so then how do you create this space where it's a comfortable learning environment? Going outdoors, if it's too hot, things of that nature. So the facilities plan will address that. There are some philanthropic dollars that community members, businesses has had, they've said, what can we do to help? And so some of those things I think are things that we need to give to them as well, so that they can help. A lot of times the students, the staff, the parents, they support these businesses that are sometimes in the neighborhood or even not, but people talk about public education and how they value it so much. Well, show us how you value it, as you are trying to pipeline these young people possibly into your industry or into your business, then create a comfortable learning environment for them right now. So what does it look like aesthetically? What does it look like? We just had cleanup day on August the 9th. And I know I was at a build, August 6th, I was at a building, we were planting hostas and cleaning up. There were some buildings, they were painting and doing all these different things. And so that's not new. We've done that. I've done that since my kids were little. So communities have always come in, but there's only so much community members can do. And so what does that look like beyond that? So that people want to come to school, first of all, and that they don't get used to some of the inferior conditions that they see and think that that's normal. Roofs leaking with buckets, that's not normal. That's not what you're supposed to experience in your school or classroom, right? So those are some of the things that we've addressed a lot because we had a capital fund. So we've been addressing a lot of those, but really addressing them individually as they arise, not at scale across the full district. So this plan will allow us to do exactly that.
The $700 million that we've got, we're going to be upgrading buildings with HVAC systems and air conditioning. And I hate to keep referring to Cass Tech, but that's where I spend the most of my time and I run a nonprofit. So those windows, the way this building was made with the windows is very poor ventilation. When we talk about what has been occurring with DPSCD, where they cut days short and students are home. So with that, obviously there's a great loss in instructional time. One of the things that I would want to see that's a clear plan, and we've done it this past year, is that you switch to virtual, that those students go to virtual. But that's not always an option because not all of our students have desktops or laptops at home. So we know that the district, when COVID first hit, students were given laptops or iPads to work from home. But I think we need to look at making sure that our parents have dedicated access to internet, laptops, and or desktops, and that there is a concrete plan that when we have to switch due to weather, that our students still are on task and that they're not missing the critical instruction that's needed.
Well, if it's too hot to teach and it's too hot to learn, we can't do it on campus. It would have to be the way we're doing this right now.
Right. And
well, these are limited access. These are problems that not just Detroit Public Schools face, but every school district. And certainly, we should get computers in the hands of these kids any way we can, via grants or whatever. I want to see a grant to teach secondary teachers to teach reading, because we've got kids at the secondary level now who have been in the school district practically their entire school life who can't read because they didn't learn in the 3rd grade. And now here they are, your 10th, 11th, 12th graders who can't read. So we should have secondary teachers being taught phonics and being taught how to teach these kids how to read in addition to their regular subject matter. Now, this is a real challenge for teachers. And I know a lot of them would argue about it. Hey, you're going to give me another job now on top of the one I've got? Yes, I am, because I don't want any kid to leave this school district unable to read. And right now, not only are they doing it, they have already done it. There are kids out there right now who can't read that came out of our school district. And that, if I sound mad, I am. It makes me sad, but it makes me madder than sad. And that's why I'm running for the school board. My main concern right now is literacy. Literacy is my platform. Literacy.
Well, I believe that they are trying to implement something, but it's taking too long. Our schools, this is going into the 6th year of their leadership. I remember advocating then in 2015 for elected school board so we can get those things. And I don't think that we have received them just yet. There are certain schools that have air conditioning, but every school should have air conditioning if we know that that is a key problem. And so I believe that moving forward, we should address those things first. And so we're talking about the facility plan, talking about closing several schools and then opening new schools and building new schools. We should have attacked this issue first. This should have been one of the things that we attacked first, because then now students are at home without learning, or we're trying to do the virtual thing. The virtual thing is not working. And so now it's just creating more issues when we could have addressed it head on, because we knew we had the resources. Some people just don't need to get paid the high salary that they have, and they should be addressing the needs of the students, because we're saying that we're putting student first. Or then we say that our tagline is, when students rise, we all rise, but they can't rise from at home because the heat, it was too hot outside. We had to be at home. And so then I remember days being in a building where the building was leaking, the roof was leaking. So it would rain and the building was leaking. I remember in the cold, the heat wasn't working. So we would have to be in the room shivering, or had, space heaters. And so I think at the end of the day, our Detroit students deserve better, because the same thing that's going on in Detroit is not going on in West Bloomfield, Grosse Pointe, Ferndale, Avondale. It's not going on there. And so we should be represented just as well as those communities. And
so, I was a parent who, my kids' school closed because of the conditions, right? And several times last year, which extended the school year and caused a lot of issues. Even for me as a working parent, I had to take off work to be home with my children. And so this is an issue that's near and dear to me. I think that knowing the state of our facilities, like, we have to be innovative as a district and figure out how we can continue to support our students and transition them, whether it's figuring out if there are alternative facilities that have the resources where we can get our students there so that their teaching isn't the teaching isn't disrupted, or whether or not it's a quick transfer to online classes. Like, we need the technology to be there to be able to ensure that our kids can continue to learn and support. Like I said, I dealt with this all year. I mean, when I tell you, that heat, it really, I think I missed like 7 days of work having to stay home with my children. And so I'm for, improving our facilities. I do think, though, that we need to think about what we can do now. We don't have 10 years to wait. So we have to look at what facility improvements can we make now so that we're not disrupting kids now, right? So we have to think about now and the future, and not just focus on what we can do 10 years from now with our facilities.